I headed into the mountains with 3 million in cash to buy up premium cherries. But just as we were ready to load up, the farmers all ganged up and hiked the prices. They backed out of every single deal we'd already agreed on. They even threatened that they'd rather let the fruit rot on the trees than sell it to me. Look, Boss Lin, the market rate right now is 80 yuan a jin, but you're only offering 30 yuan a jin. This is basically daylight robbery. Hey, Boss Lin, this is Auntie Wang's son-in-law, Su Wen. He's a college grad who knows a thing or two about economics. He's here to negotiate on behalf of everyone today. Seeing all the farmers I knew so well hiding behind Su Wen, with their eyes darting around nervously, I realized there was more to this than met the eye. We already signed the contracts. Everything was set in stone. What is there left to talk about? Still, I kept a smile on my face. Time is tight. We need to get these into the refrigerated trucks while it's still cool out. Whatever you have to say. Let's load the trucks first. Then we can sit down and talk it through. Hold it right there. Suddenly, Auntie Wang charged out of the crowd. She spread her arms wide, blocking the crates of cherries. I'd like to see who dares to touch my cherries. Auntie Wang, what is the meaning of this? We signed a contract. It's all there in black and white. Today was the delivery day. Cash on the spot. Are you really going to break our agreement? Su Wen, standing to the side, let out a sneer. A contract? Don't try to scare honest folks with a piece of worthless paper. This is a market economy. Everything has to follow market rules. Everyone, tell me, how much is premium cherry going for these days? They're selling for over 80 online already. Some are even going for 100. One of the farmers whipped out their phone to show me the price screenshot. Did you hear that? Boss Lin, don't you think the price you're offering is a little bit uncalled for? Even though I was furious, I still patiently explained it to him. Mr. Su, that's not how you do the math. First of all, that's the retail price at a high-end supermarket, not the wholesale price at the farm. Second, doing business is all about keeping your word. A month ago, when you were terrified the fruit would ripen and you couldn't get it out of here, it was me who guaranteed your bottom line. Why didn't you talk about market economy back then? And in order to make sure the fruit from your village could make it out of these mountains in one piece, I gestured to the road beneath our feet. I fronted $200,000 to build this road. And those climate-controlled greenhouses? Those were a gift from me. If we're playing by market economy rules, shouldn't all that money be factored into the costs? That was your choice, he spat back. Nobody begged you to build it. If you wanted to build it, that's just your sunk cost. What's that got to do with us? A month ago, he was just a humble farmer who knew nothing but how to say, "Thanks, boss." Now, he's actually tossing around terms like sunk cost, economic jargon like that. I turned and shot a cold glare at Su Wen. You're the one who taught him sunk cost, aren't you? I'm just helping the villagers learn some basics so they don't get scammed by shady, greedy merchants and then turn around and help them count their money. Mr. Lin, don't bring up that road as if it's a favor. Now that the road is fixed, isn't it more convenient for your refrigerated trucks too? Frankly, it's just for your own benefit. Enough talk. The cherries stay at $25. If you won't pay that, don't even think about moving a single pound. If you want to load them up, you'll pay the current market price. And what price do you have in mind? Look, since you did help with the road, we won't ask for 60. Su Wen held up 3 fingers and waved them in front of my face. It's 30, not a penny less. The current market price for top-tier Shuanggu cherries is only 20. And you guys have the nerve to ask for 30? You're just shaking me down. Call it what you want. At the end of the day, we've got the goods. You've got 15 refrigerated trucks parked here. If they head back empty, between the fuel costs and the refrigeration fees, you're easily losing tens of thousands. And that's not even counting the penalties for breaching the contract. Oh, wait. The contract itself is perfectly fair, isn't it? Go ahead, take it to court. We might not even lose. He leaned in close and lowered his voice. Look, Boss Lin, once these cherries get shipped back, put them in some fancy gift boxes, and you can easily sell them for 200 a pop, sharing a little bit of that profit with us? That's not too much to ask, is it? Don't be too greedy in life. You might just choke on it. I looked at Su Wen, his face clearly full of calculated greed. Is that what you think too? Boss Lin, none of us have it easy, you know? Plus, the market prices really have gone up. Just think of it as a good deed. 30 isn't much for someone like you. It's just making a little less profit, right? Making a little less. I'd actually originally prepared to offer 28. That was my way of showing sympathy for the late spring frost. It was a gesture of goodwill. But now, facing these people who mistake my kindness for weakness, who take my hard work for granted like a bunch of ingrates, my sincerity was completely wasted on these wolves. The more I thought about it, the more worked up I got. But I held it together. I'm a businessman. I don't just calculate the financial cost. I have to weigh the emotional cost too. If I flip out now, it would be a real shame to waste this batch of premium cherries. So, I took a deep breath. I pulled that contract out of my suit pocket. 30 is absolutely out of the question. But I took into account that everyone has been hit hard by the late spring frost. I know morale is shaky. So, I'm willing to take a step back. Suin's eyes lit up. She thought I was backing down. Look, I'm not an unreasonable guy. 28. That's the highest price I can offer right now. Those extra $3 are just me trying to be a good friend to you all. We load the trucks now. We pay out in cash on the spot. In the current market, that is absolutely the highest buying price you're going to find. I thought I'd given them more than enough of a way out. If they had even half a brain, they would have just taken the deal. But I clearly underestimated how greedy people can be. 28? You trying to get rid of a beggar? Suin already said it. These cherries are worth 30. And you're giving us 28? You're way too heartless. Boss Lin, are you playing us for fools? 31, not a penny less. If you aren't going to be sincere about this, then just go home. We'll just keep these cherries and sell them on our own live streams. We'll sell them for 60 later. And don't you dare get jealous then. Yeah, we'll sell them ourselves. Get this heartless merchant out of Cherry Village. The farmers were whipped into a frenzy. Some of them even started shoving my cold chain truck driver. I looked at this crowd of twisted, angry faces, and suddenly the cash in my trunk felt like a total joke. Back in the day, because the mountain roads were so rough, the local cherries would rot on the trees every single year because they couldn't ship them out. They'd just rot away. Or they'd be forced to sell them for peanuts, maybe $10 at best. After I learned about their situation, I didn't just pay out of my own pocket to fix the roads. I also offered them a generous price of $25 a pound to help them out. Considering these cherries bruise and spoil so easily, I specifically ordered a shipment of high-density pearl cotton inserts featuring individual compartments. I also had thousands of custom EPS cooler boxes made, each with built-in cooling gel layers. The whole country was hit by a rare late-spring cold snap and hailstorms. Major cherry-producing regions in the north suffered massive crop failures. Yields were cut in half. But because of Cherry Village's unique geographical location, tucked away in a microclimate valley between two mountains, surrounded on all sides, it blocked the freezing air and the hail. Not only were our cherries spared, but because of the sharp temperature difference between day and night, they were incredibly sweet and plump. By now, the market price had already climbed to 25 yuan per jin. That's when I made a decision. I hiked the price, telling finance to pay them 28 yuan per jin, and I had the cash ready. Boss, wasn't the contract for 25? We're losing out on hundreds of thousands of profit with this move. Keep your eyes on the long game. This is an investment in loyalty. I want them to know that working with me means they won't lose out. I thought sincerity could win hearts, but it turns out I was just being naive. Fine. If that's how it is, you can sell them yourselves. I gave a slow nod, carefully folded the contract in my hands, tucked it back into my pocket, and turned to face all the drivers. The anger was gone from my face, replaced by a chilling kind of calm. Everyone, get back in your trucks. We're turning around and heading back to the city. Xiaozheng froze for a second, nearly dropping the walkie-talkie in his hand. Boss Lin, are you serious? We're really leaving? We've got 15 refrigerated trucks here. We've already burned through so much money on fuel and refrigeration costs. Can't we talk this over? These cherries really are top tier. We could cash in as soon as we get them back. No more talk. Xiaozheng, remember this. In business, if you lose money, you can always earn it back. But I'm not going to stand there with a fake smile while people walk all over me. Then you'll never be able to hold your head up high again for the rest of your life. Listen up, everyone. That's an order pack, up the trucks, and head back to town. This turn of events clearly caught everyone off guard. They really thought I'd beg for mercy, or try to haggle with them, that I'd act just like a snake with its head pinned to the ground, and end up having to agree to that ridiculous price of 30 yuan. After all, who would be willing to just throw away hundreds of thousands of yuan already spent on road repairs and packaging? Su Wen, feeling embarrassed and furious, charged right at me. He pointed a finger straight at my nose. Lin Zhengyue, if you dare walk away, even if you come crawling back on your knees to beg us later, we won't sell a single thing to you. I stopped in my tracks. I turned around and looked at him like he was nothing more than a pathetic clown. Listen up, everyone. Remember exactly what you said today. Whether it's me being heartless or you being ungrateful, heaven is watching. Spare us the talk about heaven that won't scare us. We're just standing up for our own rights. It's your heart that's black, not ours. Since you all think you can sell them for 60 yuan on the live stream, and I wish you all the best of luck. This massive, overwhelming fortune, I, Lin, am just not lucky enough to handle it. You guys can keep it all for yourselves. After I finished, I didn't even look back as I got into the car. The moment our convoy disappeared past the mountain pass, an unprecedented roar of cheers erupted from Cherry Village. I had barely left and Suwen immediately jumped up onto the village committee's platform. Did you see that, everyone? That's just a paper tiger of a capitalist for you. He's panicking because he knows he can't squeeze our hard-earned money out of us anymore. We won. Suwen, you're something else. You even managed to scare off a big boss like that. Exactly. With cherries as crisp and as sweet as ours, why would we ever worry about selling them? Listen to Suwen. We're doing a live stream, selling them for 60, not 80. That afternoon, it felt like Cherry Village was celebrating a festival. They were lost in the wild joy of having defeated Big Capital, but they had no idea that by doing so, they had cut off the only link between their isolated mountain village and the modern cold chain logistics market, their only shred of hope. They thought they were chasing away a blood-sucking wolf. Little did they know, they were chasing away the only person willing to look out for them when disaster struck. Back at the office, I told the CFO to deposit those $3 million in cash back into the bank. What about the money for the road construction, sir? Plus the $500,000 for the cold chain packaging and greenhouse films. That's nearly $1 million total. How are we supposed to cover that deficit? Just write it off as tuition, I said, and notify the legal department. Prepare a breach of contract lawsuit against every single farmer in Cherry Village who signed with us. Even though the odds of getting that money back were slim, I wanted to make sure they got a permanent, ugly mark on their credit reports. Understood. What about the supply shortage for those high-quality cherries? Get in touch with the bases over in Shanxi. They might be a little beaten up, and the price will be higher, but they can cover the volume. Making less profit doesn't matter. We cannot afford to lose our reputation with our distributors. Once I finished giving orders, I opened my phone and saw that Suwen had set up an account on a short video platform called Fruit Farmer Su. He had just posted a new video. University grad returns home to start a business. Come taste the pure rubies from the deep mountains. Cut out the middleman and save. The first live stream cherry harvest event starts tonight. When I clicked into the stream, there were already 200 or 300 people watching. I saw him standing in the Wang family's orchard. Behind him were piles of freshly picked cherries stuffed into basic bamboo baskets. The lighting was dim, and Suwen was wearing that ill-fitting suit of his, screaming his lungs out directly into the camera. Hey guys, are you seeing this? These are 100% natural, premium deep mountain cherries, completely chemical-free. Today, Brother Su is giving you guys a special deal. Forget about 198. And forget about 128 too. It's just $58 a pound, shipping included, straight to your door. Just look at how juicy these are. Look at the fruit, it's even bigger than a $1 coin. To my brothers who know your stuff, type, "I want some" in the chat right now, smiling with a stiff, unnatural grin. He's holding a piece of cardboard he grabbed from God knows where. Scrawled on it in messy handwriting are the words, "Freshly picked, freshly shipped." I took a look at the comments section. 58 is way too expensive. The fruit stand downstairs only sells them for 30. Hey, the guy above me, do you even know what you're talking about? Those are seconds, or fruit with defects. Fruitstans? Those are just rejected scraps. Does the streamer even use cold chain shipping? Does the packaging include ice packs and protective foam trays? Do they offer a guarantee for damaged fresh produce? We're a farm-to-table operation, selling what we grow ourselves. We pick them, box them, and ship them out immediately. Nationwide free shipping. Guaranteed freshness. And we'll replace any rotten fruit, no questions asked. Watching all this, I shut off the live stream. I let out a cold, cynical laugh. Ignorance really is bliss. They think fresh produce e-commerce is just yelling a few lines into a phone and then sitting back to rake in the cash. But what they don't realize is, for a delicate princess fruit like these cherries, the cost of logistics and packaging is terrifying. Without professional, perforated foam trays, without custom-made, reinforced foam boxes, and without enough biological ice packs to protect them, given the rough handling of standard couriers and the sweltering summer heat, you'd end up with a box of mush for every shipment. Plus, Suwen set a high price of $58. At this price point, consumers are incredibly demanding when it comes to fruit quality, firmness, and packaging. And there he is, using nothing but primitive cardboard boxes and cheap mesh bags, thinking they could fetch the price of a premium gift box. Was just a pipe dream. And sure enough, the trouble started pretty quickly. On the very first day of the livestream, thanks to the gimmick of college students returning home and killing it on social media, they actually managed to sell a few hundred orders. Once they were over the moon with joy, they spent the night packing cherries into flimsy grocery bags and beat-up cardboard boxes. To save a buck, they completely ignored All those high-cost, custom-made insulated boxes and cooling packs I'd left behind in the village. Just the shipping alone was costing nearly $20 an order. That promise Su Wen made about doubling their profits really shrank quite a bit after taking out those expensive fresh produce shipping fees. Still, regardless of how you look at it, selling them for $58 meant taking home nearly $40. That was still way higher than my 28. The farmers were super fired up and even started mocking me. However, the good times didn't last long. 2 days later, the first batch of orders arrived in the customer's hands, and that's when disaster struck. Su Wen, what's going on? My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Everyone's cussing us out. Su Wen, who was lounging on the Kang dreaming about getting rich, impatiently grabbed the phone. One look, and his face went pale instantly. It was nothing but refund requests and negative reviews. Some customers complained about the shoddy packaging, saying the cherries were all squashed into mush. Others sent photos of the fruit covered in white mold, and some were screaming that the fruit smelled sour and rotten, threatening to report them. Su Wen scrambled to explain, claiming it was just some minor bruising during transit. Honey, it's just that the cherries were cooped up in a sealed space, so a little fermented smell is totally normal. But nobody was listening to his excuses. The platform stepped in, because the refund rate for fresh produce was incredibly high, and there were serious issues with items not matching their descriptions. Su Wen's farmer brother Su account was banned on the spot. His security deposit was frozen, and what was even worse, those customers who received rotten, foul-smelling fruit not only demanded full refunds, but also pressed the platform to penalize the seller. Out of the 300-plus orders sold in just 3 days, the refund rate hit a staggering 95%. The remaining 5%? They just left brutal, scathing reviews. Su Wen stared at the red account frozen notification on his phone. Then he looked at the unsold fruit piled up in the yard. He slumped onto the ground, slapping his thighs and wailing. Oh, good heavens! What am I supposed to do now? I've already dumped several thousand into shipping fees alone. I haven't seen a single cent of profit. Now I'm actually losing even more money. This isn't right. That's not what those fruit-selling streamers taught us online. Su Wen cowered in the corner. He was drenched in sweat. Gone was his former glory, the swagger he had when he was... To make matters worse, the temperature had spiked over the last few days, and they didn't have any cold storage. The worst part was that the temperature had shot up, and they had absolutely no cold storage. The premium cherries still on the trees were ripening and softening rapidly, and those that had already been picked and piled up in the yard, without any refrigeration, and without being cooled down, the heat trapped within the piles caused them to rot and ferment quietly in their crates. The sweet, fresh scent that once filled the air started to take on a pungent, sour stench of decay. Having his streaming account banned was like a bucket of ice water, completely extinguishing the false hope that had been burning in Cherry Village. At the village committee office, facing a group of farmers pacing like ants on a hot pan, was Su Wen still going to be stubborn and refuse to admit defeat? Everyone, don't panic. Our account got banned from the platform. They're just jealous because our traffic is booming. Look, we've got top-tier cherries here. Once word gets out, there'll be plenty of supermarkets fighting to snap them up. And the shipping costs. We've been eating those losses for days now. Plus, the fruit is about to go overripe. We can't afford any more drama. Don't you worry. I'll get in touch with the buyers right now. Su Wen pulled out his phone, and right there in front of the whole village, he started calling all the fruit and vegetable wholesalers he'd found online. But what he didn't know was, just a day after I left Cherry Village, I'd already dropped into a provincial fresh produce supply chain group chat and laid out exactly what happened at Cherry Village. In the fresh produce business, there's nothing we fear more than suppliers who don't play by the rules and hike prices at the last minute. So, as Su Wen made his calls, everyone's reaction was surprisingly identical. Hello, is this Boss Shu? I've got a shipment of premium cherries from Cherry Village here. Yes, exactly. You heard about it. That's great. You mean the shipment Boss Lin refused to take? You guys have got some nerve, don't you? Holding his trucks hostage just to squeeze more money out of him? No thanks, I wouldn't dare touch your fruit. What if you decide to jack up the price again? While the trucks are halfway here? Su Wen's face shifted, but he forced himself to stay calm, smiling as he told the fruit farmers. Let's try another one. Manager Chen, you're looking for cherries in bulk, right? We've got 30,000 pounds of fruit. How firm are they? Have they been cold stored? What's your price? They're absolutely fresh. The market price is usually 60, but I'll give you a deal. 30? How about 30? Are you still dreaming or what? These are out of the cold chain. They've been sitting out in the yard for 2 or 3 days. And you're trying to sell them to me for 30? I wouldn't pay more than 10 for these. Maybe send them off to the juice plant for pulp. Take it or leave it, $10. Why don't you just go rob someone? Boss Lin was offering 28. Then keep them by all means. Wait until they turn into complete mush. Su Wen made over a dozen calls in a row. Either they hung up on him immediately, or as soon as they heard the words Cherry Village, they started mocking him. The absolute worst was a guy who specialized in buying rotten fruit to make fertilizer for orchards. He laughed loudly over the phone and said, "So I heard you guys chased Boss Lin away? Great job, really. But your fruit is pretty soft by now, right? I'll take them off your hands for $1 a pound. I don't mind that you guys have no credibility. After all, I'm just using it for compost anyway." Su Wen hurriedly hung up the phone. A deathly silence blanketed the entire village committee courtyard. Su Wen, is this your bidding war? You absolute disaster. Are you trying to get us all killed? Uncle, it's not my fault. It's that guy, Lin Zhengguan. He's definitely behind this. He's blacklisting us across the whole industry. Boss Lin was offering 28 in cold hard cash. You refused to sell. You just had to hold out for 30. Look at us now. Now we're down to $1. What about my shipping fees? I already paid 800 in shipping out of my own pocket. The fruit all rotted on the road. Yeah, pay us back. And what about the trees in my yard? They're so mushy now, they fall apart if you even touch them. The farmers instantly lost control. The college student, who was once put on a pedestal, had now become a rat crossing the street that everyone wanted to beat. Su Wen was shoved and pushed around, losing his balance. Their once shiny hair was now a tangled mess of despair. I sat in my office, listening to the audio file my informant sent over. A cold smirk crept across my face. Now that's what I call digging your own grave. The business world has its own set of rules. The moment you break those rules for some short-sighted gain, the system will crush you without a second thought. I don't even need to lift a finger to destroy you. I just have to state the facts. And this fresh produce market, which thrives on reputation, will spit you out all on its own. Over the next 2 days, the temperature in the mountains took a bizarre and sudden jump to 30 degrees Celsius. For cherries that were already fully ripe, this was a death sentence. Even though this batch started off high quality, because they were carelessly piled up in the heat and weren't picked or put into cold storage in time, plus the rough handling during sorting, the skin of the fruit was damaged extensively. The moment Wang stepped into his yard that day, he was hit by a pungent stench. It wasn't the smell of fruit, it was the thick, sickening reek of rotting decay. He rushed over and ripped the anti-bird netting off the crates. The cherries, which should have been plump and glowing like rubies, were now completely shriveled. Their surfaces were covered in white mold, and cloudy, sour juice was leaking from the bottom of the crates. A foul odor blasted into his face, so strong it nearly made him tumble forward into the mess. Boss, come quick! In no time, the whole village was in chaos. It wasn't just Wang's family. Almost every household had harvested fruit, and even the fruit still on the trees had started to rot. Farmers were wailing and crying out, looking at their ruined harvest, those cherries covered in white fuzz. They were absolutely helpless. Watching those crates of fruit in his yard turn into a pile of mush, Wang collapsed to the ground, completely broken. He grabbed a handful of the rotting mess, of sludge. My hands won't stop shaking. It's over. Everything's completely ruined. Every single piece of fruit has rotted away. Forget about getting 28 cents for them now. Even if we offered to pay someone to haul this trash away, they wouldn't even touch it. They'd worry about dirtying their trucks. The 30,000 pounds of red gems we had have all turned into 30,000 pounds of fly-infested, rotting sludge. Just as the whole village was wailing and crying over their courtyards full of sour rot, Su Wen was slinking out of the village with a bag slung over her shoulder. She'd been hiding out at her mother-in-law's place for days, terrified to show her face. But seeing all that fruit turn to mush, she knew if she didn't bolt now, they'd beat her to death. Before she could make it far, the fruit farmers who had been watching her like hawks blocked her at the village entrance. So, you think you can just run off with your fancy marketing theories? Dream on! You're going to sell this pile of filth for us, or else. If you can't sell it, don't even think about stepping 1 foot out of this village today. Please, uncles, listen to me. This was just a natural disaster. An act of God, I swear. I never imagined the weather would get this hot, and I had no idea the fruit would spoil this fast. When Mr. Lin came here, he brought refrigerated trucks and cooling equipment. And you were the one who chased him away. Mr. Lin even offered us those specialized, ventilated thermal crates, but you told us to use those cheap cardboard boxes for shipping. You were the one who insisted. Give me back my money. Pay for my fruit. I must have been blind to have believed your nonsense. That was tens of thousands of dollars. That was money meant for my kids' tuition. And now, it's all just rotting stench. Give me back my money. The long tobacco pipe in his hand snapped clean in two. He stared at the absolute wreckage covering the ground, and suddenly, the look in my eyes the day I left flashed through his mind. It wasn't anger. It was pity. What a disaster. Back then, when Mr. Lin offered us 28 in cash right at the truck, why in the hell was I so greedy, thinking it wasn't enough? That was real money, literally handed to us on a silver platter. Now there's no money, no path forward, just a life full of misery and rot. They've even burned bridges with their own kin. Right now, the entire Cherry Village is reeking with a nauseating, sour stench. It's the smell of rotting fruit, and the smell of rotting greed. Meanwhile, 100 kilometers away in the city, I'm sitting in a high-end restaurant. Across from me sits the new supplier from Shanxi. Boss Lin, I really appreciate you trusting me with this, handing over such an urgent order to us. Honesty is everything. As long as the fruit meets the firmness standards, and the cold chain is up to par, price is not an issue. My phone vibrated. It was a video sent by my informant. In the video, the fruit farmers of Cherry Village are gathered around those crates of rotting fruit covered in white mold, pointing fingers at each other, wailing in despair. I took one look, swiped past it with a blank expression, and turned off the screen. Is something wrong? Nothing at all, Boss Lin. Just watched a pathetic little farce that wasn't even funny. But the plot didn't end there. People only remember the path they once trampled underfoot. When they finally hit a dead end, I knew they'd be coming. I had just finished the morning meeting that day, and was heading back to my office to deal with some paperwork. Xiao Li, the receptionist, ran in looking panicked. Boss Lin, there's a commotion downstairs. What about the security guards? They can't stop them. There are too many people. Over 20 of them are holding up banners, and some are kneeling at the entrance crying. They say they're your fellow villagers coming to apologize to you. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down at the plaza in front of the office building. A group of people in drab, dusty clothes, looking timid and shriveled, were huddled outside the revolving doors. That woman, Su Wen, who used to be so arrogant and conceited. Right now, I'm being dragged by two guys, my head hanging low. Auntie Wang is kneeling at the very front, knocking her head against the floor in front of the security guards. That banner has some wobbly red characters scrawled on it, begging for forgiveness from Boss Lin's father, begging Boss Lin to save Cherry Village. I let out a cold laugh. How ironic. Just a month ago, they were at the entrance of the village, calling me a bloodsucker, a black-hearted businessman, and shouting for me to get the hell out of Cherry Village. Now, they've traveled hundreds of kilometers to kneel right outside my office building, begging me to be their savior. Boss, should we call the police? No need. Let them keep waiting downstairs. Make them wait for 1 hour. For that crowd down there, I'm sure this hour will feel longer than a century. The head of security came up to report the situation. That Auntie Wang has already fainted from crying twice. Her husband has been slapping himself in the face non-stop. And that guy named Su Wen was forced by the angry fruit farmers to kneel at the very front. His face is all bruised up, black and blue. It's pretty clear he took a real beating before they even got here. Shortly after, I walked out of the building, slowly, with little Li and a few other executives. The baskets of cherries they brought, which were supposed to be the highest quality, had been ruined by the long, hot, and bumpy journey. The fruit at the bottom was completely crushed and rotting. That sour, fermented stench of rot hung heavy over the polished, glamorous plaza of the CB, making the passing office workers cover their noses and look away, avoiding them like they were carrying a plague. As soon as they saw me appear, the chaotic crowd fell silent for a single second, and then a chorus of heart-wrenching wails exploded. Boss Lin! Oh, Boss Lin! You finally come out! Boss Lin! We were wrong! We aren't even human for what we did. Boss Li, please, you have to save us! Our livelihood for the entire year is all riding on you. Boss Lin, I'm begging you, please. I'll kowtow to you right here. We were blinded by greed before. We only listened to Su Wen's lies and incitement. Please, a big person like you shouldn't stoop to the level of petty people like us. Please, just take our fruit. I'm begging you! Auntie Wang scrambled up from the ground. She tried to rush over and grab my legs, but she was held back tightly by two hulking security guards. In her hands, she clutched a crumpled, dirt-stained contract. It was the very same paper they had treated like trash back then. Boss Lin, we want to honor the original contract now. We don't need 25. Just 20. Just $20 is fine, as long as you take the fruit off our hands. Please, just give the villagers a way to survive. That guy Su Wen was cowering at the very back of the crowd. Like a frightened quail, he had lost all that arrogant confidence he had before. I stood there on the steps, looking down at them from above. Their faces were sunburnt and flushed a deep red. Their eyes were filled with nothing but misery, fear, and desperation. These weren't the same faces I saw a month ago, the greedy, twisted, arrogant ones. I couldn't even make them match up in my mind. But I remember it all very clearly. I remember Su Wen saying we couldn't short them even a single penny. And I remember Annie Wang declaring that the contract meant nothing. So, the village chief remembers the contract now, does he? When I showed up with the refrigerated trucks back then, didn't you all say it was just a piece of scrap paper? Their hands holding the contract were trembling in the air. Sigh, Boss Lee, every mistake, every single wrong thing. It was all our fault. It was all Su Wen's doing. He was the one who tricked us into thinking we could sell them for 60 bucks. He was the one giving the bad orders, making us ship them out via regular mail. Boss Lin, we even brought him here with us. That's just how the world works. Just take the fruit, please. Boss Lee, I was wrong. I didn't know any better. I'm just an ignorant fool when it comes to the law. Please, have mercy on me. Watching this whole farce play out, I just feel disgusted. Enough. Stop the act. You all hate Su Wen, not because he tricked you, but because he didn't help you make any money. If the price had actually hit 60 that day, would you still be kicking him now? You'd be singing his praises to the high heavens and laughing at me together, saying, Lin Zhengyuan is such an idiot. A deathly silence fell over the crowd. The fruit farmers, their true motives exposed, looked at each other, then shamefully lowered their heads. I slowly walked down the steps and came to the basket of cherries Auntie Wang had brought. There was still a tattered piece of bird netting draped over the basket. A sticky brown liquid was oozing from beneath the netting. I didn't even need to get close. That sharp, rancid stench was already hitting me right in the face. Is this the sincerity you brought? Do you smell that? This is slop. It's not premium large cherries. Boss Lin, even if some of them are a bit soft or rotten, we can pick out the good ones, and they're still edible, or we could send them to a factory to be pressed into juice. Look, I deal in high-end fresh produce. I'm not a garbage collector. These fruits are already covered in mold. If you threw them in the trash, they'd have to be sorted as hazardous waste. And you want me to buy them? We can lower the price by 5 yuan. Just 5 yuan is fine. That's enough to cover our hard work and the cost of the saplings. Village Chief, do you still not get it? This isn't about the money. Back then, I spent 500,000 on building that road. I provided the greenhouse film and custom-made insulation boxes. I spent hundreds of thousands. I rolled into the village with 3 million in cash and 15 refrigerated trucks, offering you a premium price of 28 yuan. That was my sincerity. That was my trust. But you took that trust, threw it on the ground, and trampled all over it. You even spat on it twice. Now that trust is rotten. Just like these fruits, there's no saving them. Forget about these cherries being spoiled. Even if they were fresh, just picked straight off the tree right now, I still wouldn't take them. Because to me, and to the entire fresh produce industry, the name Cherry Village is already tainted. Boss Lee, you can't just leave us to die. You were the one who built that road. You can't just wash your hands of us now. That's right, I built the road. When I paved that path, I thought I was bringing refrigerated trucks in to help you all get rich. But I never imagined that once the road was finished, it wouldn't bring in prosperity. Instead, it unleashed the greedy demons inside your hearts. Keep that road for yourselves. Whether you can find a way out of this is up to your own fate. I didn't spare them another glance after that. I turned and headed toward the building. Behind me, a chorus of shrill, desperate wails erupted. My security guards formed a human wall, blocking them firmly from getting any closer. I remained unmoved. My pace didn't falter for even a second. I know I must look cold-blooded right now, but I know something else too. Being merciful to those who break their word is just being cruel to those who keep theirs. Back in my office, I stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling window, watching them scatter like stray dogs, vanishing from my sight, taking their truckloads of rot and regret with them. On my desk sat a box of freshly washed premium cherries. Those were the ones sent over from the Shanxi base. Big, plump, and temptingly deep red. I picked one up and took a bite. It was so crisp and sweet. That's exactly what a contract tastes like. As for those people back in Cherry Village, they're destined to spend the rest of their lives swallowing the bitter pill they brewed for themselves. And that taste, it's even more sour than rotten fruit. It's more bitter than medicine,